Hi, today I'm going to show you how to use PowerPoint and sort of the basics you need to know to create a presentation talk. So these are some example slides that I have, and I will put the full presentation in the research drive so that you can look at it and sort of use it for inspiration if you need, or if you need to remember anything that I talked about, or if you just want to practice along with this presentation. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is design, right? So in the design tab in PowerPoint, there are these things called themes, and this is effectively the background for all of the slides. If you click a theme, it applies that background to everything in the presentation, right? So if you want a specific one, you can also choose these variants over here, right? And that applies it to everything. Now, say you want one specific slide to look different, you can open this Design Ideas panel over here in the Design tab. You click Design Ideas. And what it does is, based off of the colors and the objects and sometimes even the content on the slide, it gives you a bunch of options for your slide that you might want to use instead, right? And you can click and it'll just change just that slide for you. And it's pretty easy. Now, if you have changed one slide and you would like that design to be used again for another slide, you can't simply just copy and paste this slide. So if you hit Control C and then you try to paste that slide again, it keeps the text and the content, but it reverts back to your original theme. The way you can copy and paste these types of slides is you can come over here to Insert at the top, and in the New Slide button, all the way down at the bottom, you can click Duplicate Selected Slides, and that will give you a duplicate, right? And so now you have two of these, and you can change this text to whatever it needs to be for whatever it needs to be in terms of whatever you need, right? Maybe it's another title. Maybe you want this to be sort of your title slides, right? So maybe this means this is going to be characterization, right? And so you have this now slide that you can move around in your presentation, right? That's really all you need to know for design in terms of making these. You want to make it simple, easy to read, and easy to read from far away. So try not to use anything that's super busy or has tons and tons of different graphics on it, because that can be distracting. So text. This is the most basic thing you're going to put on a PowerPoint slide. Generally, when you open a new PowerPoint slide, so like if we do Control M, this is what it looks like, right? So you can add a title, whatever you want your title to be. And then when you're adding text, all you have to do is click and start typing. And what's great about PowerPoint is if you have a specific design, it will start automatically putting in these effectively these sort of the bullet points for you. And so you can type as much as you need, and if you need to make subpoints, you can just hit the tab button and it'll move it over, and so the next couple lines you type will be tab. And if you need to move that back to start making main points again, all you have to do is click Shift Tab at the same time, and that'll move it back so you can start making these full points. All right. If for some reason this box does not appear, you can come over here to Text Box, and what this lets you do is draw a new text box. It can be a little bit finicky sometimes. There's also this button does the same thing, but an Insert, Text Box, and you can draw a new one, right? And then you can start typing. The one thing that is a little bit finicky about this is that sometimes when you draw a new text box, it doesn't have the bullet points that are the same, right? And so another way you can do that is if you have a text box already, you can select the whole text box so that it's sort of like selected with the Move tool, Control Copy, and then you can paste. And now what you can do is you have a whole other text box that's formatted the exact same, right? And so now you can change this and you can make it whatever, right? So there's times when you want to use both. Sometimes you want to have a point over here And sometimes you might want a text box that doesn't have any bullet points, so you can make that sort of a label or a reference or something, right? So just keep those points in mind. Now we're going to move on to tables, right? As you may have noticed, in these, sometimes there is a button that lets you insert a table. You can click that, and it does the exact same thing as the insert table and insert table button up here. And you can choose whatever size of table you want to import, right? So you want a 5x5 table. There you go. Now you have a table. And you can do this on slides that already have things on them. So if we go back to the text slides, say we want a table on here, we can just come up here, insert a table. This time I want to draw it out. I want a 4x4 table. And now I can move this around as much as I need to. I can change the dimensions, and it'll try and keep the cells all relatively proportioned. You can move these lines as well. So if you want your first two cells to be like really, really short and small, you can do that. And it'll try and keep those proportions even if you resize this table, right? And another thing is, just like in Word, it opens up this table design view. So if you want a different format of your table, a different color and background, you can pick one. PowerPoint is really good about picking a table that fits with your theme and your format. So I usually just go with whatever it picks. But if you want a specific coloration or whatever, you can. If you want to highlight something, you can select those cells. You can either highlight text that's in them, or in that same design tab, you can come into shading and you can make those cells, the background of them, whatever color you might want them to be, right? Just some simple table tools, but they're very useful if you have to make the table in PowerPoint. You can also make the table in Word and then copy and paste it in, and you can also do the same with Excel documents, right? That's really it for tables. Pictures can get a little finicky, so you got to be careful, right? So say you want to just have a picture that it's just what's on your slide, right? You can come over here, and in these two buttons, you can insert a picture from your computer or from the web, and those are really useful. If you click the computer, it just opens up a file browser, and you can pick a file if you have one. If you click the online pictures, it opens up sort of this search window, and you can type whatever you want in here, and it will pull up a bunch of pictures that are related to your search, right? You have this sort of Creative Commons only. So these are all things that right now are under Creative Commons license, so you can use them without copyright problems, even though you should still reference it. If you uncheck that box, you get a lot more options, but there's no guarantee that any of this isn't copyrighted pictures. So you got to be really careful if you use this tool. The easiest thing to do is if you use a picture from the web, you include the, as the caption, you include the website that you got it from. So right here, I have this GIF on here, and then I include the link to where I got that GIF, so that if anyone looks at this, they're like, okay, at least you're citing your source, right? Additionally, maybe you don't have, you're not doing it that way, you're just copy and pasting a picture. So here's a picture that I was using for this presentation. So I right-click and copy, come back to PowerPoint. You have to be careful. If you click inside the box and then hit paste as the destination theme, it's going to basically take up that box because PowerPoint thinks you now want this to be the only thing on the slide because you use the main box to do it, right? So instead, if you want to leave the text on there, you click outside of the box and you paste it over here, and then you're all good, right? Another good thing that you can do is, instead of using destination theme, you can click paste as a picture, and then it's usually pretty good, and you can still add whatever text you might want to on this slide, right? Every time you paste a picture, it opens the design window. That can get sometimes annoying, but also it's helpful if you want a specific design for your picture slide, right? So that's pictures. That's pretty easy. Let's actually leave that there. Now let's talk about ChemDraw. For this research group, you're probably going to be inserting ChemDraw files and drawings. So here I have something I drew for this presentation on ChemDraw, what I want to do is I want to use the select tool to select everything that I want to put as one like continuous image. And then on here in the paste options, oops, I didn't copy it. So you right click and you copy this, Control C. And now I can either paste it as like it's just the paste option, or I can paste it as a picture. You want to be careful. If you paste it as a picture, then you might not be able to re-edit it if you then copy and paste this back into ChemDraw later. So you just want to hit paste, and now you have this cool ChemDraw sort of drawing that is pre-made, and this could be a chemical equation or whatever, right? One thing that I do always like to do is you can give this a background so it's not blending in with your theme. So you come up here to Format while this is selected, and you come to Shape Fill, and I like to give it a white background. And I also usually like to give it an outline, so outline it in black. Now this makes it very easy to see, even if people, and it doesn't blend into the background. But there might be some occasions where you do kind of want it to blend in with everything else on your presentation. So you can then hit no outline and no fill, and then it's back to its original form where it's blending in with whatever's on the page, right? And that's really it for ChemDraw. It's very easy to move those things in. You can resize it if you want things to be separate. So right now I couldn't take this 2HCOO and move that around. I could if in this one I hadn't had that selected. So whatever you have selected all at once, when you copy and paste it, it'll come in as one like contiguous drawing. All right, now I'm going to talk a little bit about animation. This can get a little bit sticky, so I'm going to keep it simple to what you might want to use in sort of a professional PowerPoint. The most common thing that you use is you just use a simple appearing animation where as you click your pointer, as you click the mouse, things appear on the screen one by one. This is good because then the audience doesn't have to look at everything on your slide every time you click the button. And that means that they won't get overwhelmed if you have one slide that's really full, right? And animation is really easy to do once you understand how it works. So this is an animation slide that I've made, and let's go ahead and preview it right now. And what it does is it starts with just these on the screen, and as I click, so click once, this appears, and if I click again, the rest of it appears, right? Escape it back out of there. So how do we do that in a very simple way? First, you want to come up here to the Animations tab and open that. Now you have a little bit more information. You can see that this is ordered first as ones, and these two animations are ordered second. The easiest way to see this is if you open this thing called the animation pane. Now this shows all the animations that are for this slide. So if we go to this next slide, which we're not going to go over how the animations work, you can see there's a lot more, right? But for this one, it's very simple. We have the first animation, right? So number one, on a click, these two animations happen, right? So we have this oval, which is a shape that I drew, and then the text box, which has this sort of CAT in it. And those appear on the first click. Then on the second click, the thing's labeled too. So second click, the sort of this arrow appears, and this red circle I drew appears. Let's say we want to make something else appear, right? So let's say this plus. We don't want this plus to appear until a little bit later in our presentation. So you click the shape and highlight it, and then up here you can click appear. If you want more animation options, you can click add animation, and you have a whole bunch of animation options, including disappear, which can be helpful sometimes. We're just going to stick with appear for right now. If you want to know more about these other animation styles and what they do, there are like YouTube tutorials and stuff that you can sort of see. Now, by default, it adds this to the end, and so now on the third click, the plus sign will appear. So if we go into here, we can see it's gone. So click, click, and then the third click, the plus sign appears, right? maybe we don't actually want this, right? Maybe we want instead for this to be the first thing that appears. You see we have this up and down arrow when we select it. So if you click and drag, you can move this in the order. So we can make this go first. So now the plus is the first thing that appears and everything else comes after it. Let's move it back to the end. Maybe we want it to do sort of what I've done before, where two things appear at once. That's also really easy. You have whatever it is you want to appear before it, sort of above it in this list. You click on this button, and you want it to do start with previous. Now, what that means is effectively when this animation plays, so will this one. Because these are instant animations, that means that all three of these animations are going to play on the second click. So let's see how that looks. So we click once and our catalyst appears, and then we click again and all of our stuff appears. Really the best way to get good at animations is to just keep trying, keep doing it, editing things, moving things around. My biggest advice is remember to constantly check anytime you change anything in your animation pane. You click your slideshow and you see what it looks like when you actually click through. Because that could be really helpful, because you might think that these all work just fine, and then you click through and you realize one little thing is out of place and you got to go back and fix it, right? And so once you get really good with animation, you can do something like this, right? Which is a little bit more complicated. It's nothing expert, but we can take a look at what this looks like. So you have this text, and you can make text disappear and appear as well. The same way when you're doing the animation, you just click whatever text you want to appear or disappear, and you click add animation. So in this pane, the first click, all this stuff appears. On the second click, this little sort of solution drawing that I made wobbles. And then on the third click, we have this little dot that kind of moves up and then comes and ends right on top of, and this is supposed to be, this is what a drop casting is, right? And so you can get even more complicated and you could make full cartoons using this. It's that complicated, but for what you might need, really, you just need to make text appear and disappear. So if you want to make some text appear, right? So say you want this text to all be animated, you can click the box and click appear. And now what will happen is it actually animates each individual sort of like sub point, right? And you can edit that sort of if you click this up and down box, and you can change what appears when. If you want something to appear on the click as opposed to with something else, you just got to play around with it and keep trying, and ask for help if you need it. There's tons of YouTube tutorials and various things like that. So I hope that this is all you need to start creating a PowerPoint presentation. If you want more advice on what exactly to put in it and what sections you should have based on our research, there is an advanced video that covers that and also poster presentations. So thank you, and I hope this was helpful.